This Tanya is actually published on the Upper East Side. The Rebbe published over 7,000 editions of Tanyas, literally in every city in the world. Because as the Alter Rebbe said, his intent wasn't for a group of Jews, Chassidim, his intent was for each and every Jew to study the Tanya. And the Alter Rebbe, in his own style, if you want to understand the secret of Chabad, the 5,000 Chabad houses all over the world, you have to study the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe, in his own humble style, doesn't even write his name. He wrote this book, and he calls it, it's a collection, Likutei Amarim, a nice collection. Doesn't mention his name. A collection of sayings that he heard from Seifrim, this is the title page from Seifrim, which he himself wrote, just very short, 3 lines, that he wrote from Seifrim, which refers to specifically the Shalah HaKadosh, Rabbi Shai Levi Horowitz, and the Maral of Prague, who is an ancestor of the Alter Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Loi from Prague, and from Seifrim, which refers to the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. And he says the whole Tanya is based on one verse in the Torah. On the pasuk, Ki karev elecha hadavar ma'od beficha levavcha la'asosei, that we heard the Rebbe say earlier, that to do Jewish, to act Jewish, to think Jewish, to speak Jewish, and to do it bilvavcha wholeheartedly is something that's very near and dear to you. Judaism is very personal. You know, redemption. Today is a holiday of redemption. Chag HaGeula. And this is a theme, a central theme in Yiddishkeit. In the morning, in the evening, we remember the Exodus from Egypt. Redemption is very personal. As Rashi says, that when a person, even when a person is so stuck, Hashem lowered himself into Egypt to personally take us out of Mitzrayim. Rashi says in Parashas Boy that even a Jew, the night of the plague, the 10th plague, the last night they were in Egypt, there were Jews who were found in the Egyptian homes. So Rashi says, Hashem says, I am going to redeem them. Could you imagine a Jew who's so stuck in such a dark place after 9 plagues, the last night in Egypt, you're about to leave, and still this Jew would rather be found in the Egyptian home than be at home? Hashem says, I love him. And I am going to take him personally and redeem him and distinguish between him and the other firstborn. And we can't help but respond personally. Yiddishkeit is very personal. Ki karev elecha. Each and every one of us has a personal relationship with Hashem. But the question is, how is this possible? At the end of the 2017 and 21st century, with all the distractions around us, could the Torah realistically say that to think Jewish, act Jewish, speak Jewish is something, and to do it wholeheartedly is something that's near and dear? We know how difficult it is. There's so many distractions. And Alter Rebbe seems to take a very absolutist position. Yes, it's possible, it's doable, we can do it, all of it, without compromise. The truth is, when it comes to our physical health, all of us take an absolutist position. If you go to the doctor, imagine the doctor telling you, listen, nobody is perfect. You got to be an adult. Don't be a child. You got to cut here, compromise here, cut a corner there. That's what being adult means. You got to compromise. We don't compromise on, we want to be 100%. So why is our spiritual health any different? And being absolutist works both ways. It doesn't only mean being 100%. It means that one single mitzvah is so powerful. Because if something is 1% true, it's 100% true. The power of one single mitzvah. The Talmud says a Jew puts on tefillin one time in his life. It changes his status forever. He's no longer a karkafta lemanach tefillin. It changes everything. In Hebrew, what is the word for exile? Gola. What is the Hebrew word for redemption? Geula. What's the difference? The same letters. Aleph. All it takes is Aleph. One Jew. Aleph. One mitzvah. That's all it takes to transform human consciousness, tip the scale, the power of one mitzvah. When the Rebbe started the campaign to stop a Jew and ask him to put on tefillin one time in his life, if you understood the power of one single mitzvah. But the question is, how is this possible after all? 24/7, to live like a Jew, speak like a Jew, act like a Jew, think like a Jew. And that's what he's going to explain, and he says he's going to explain it b'derech aruka uktzara. And that's how he ends the title page. And he refers to the Talmudic story. The Talmud says in Erevin, Daf Nun Gimel, page 53, Rabbi Krasnianski says, nobody ever got the better of me in any argument. Only 3 exceptions. One of the exceptions was, he was traveling to a city and he reached a crossroad. And there was a little child, a little boy sitting at the crossroad. And he asked him, what's the best way to get to the city? So the boy says, well, this way is the short, long way. And this way is the long, short way. So Rabbi Krasnianski, of course, took the short way. He gets to the city very quickly. The problem is the city is surrounded by gardens and orchards. He can't get into the city. He goes back. He says, what did you do to me? You told me this is the shortcut. The boy smiled. Yes, I told you it's the short, long way. You want to get into the city, take the long. You have to go around, but you can get straight into the city. And what Alter Rebbe was referring to, because the Tanya was a revolution within a revolutionary movement. The Chassidic movement was a revolution. The Bala Tanya created a revolution within a revolution. Because the Tanya, if you will, is the world's first self-help book. Alter Rebbe says, unlike my colleagues, I am not going to spoon feed you. I am going to help you help yourself. The authority model doesn't fit the human spirit. No authority can tell you how to live, and you can't even tell yourself. You have to encounter and reveal your true self. So the Rebbe says, I am going to help you discover and access your true self, the Rebbe inside of you, the divine essence, the piece of the divine essence that we have inside of us. How do you do that? There's one word. In Chassidus, this is a very powerful word. It's called bittul. Egolessness. You got to get out of your own way. What's the word for I, the most commonly used word in the English language and probably any language? Ani. If you take the letters of Ani and turn it around, what do you get? Ayin. Our mission in life is to turn the Ani, I, which is relentless. From the moment we are born, it never ends, it never stops. Spirituality could be the ultimate ego trip, my Gan Eden, my share in the world to come, it just never ends. But for a moment, to stop thinking about yourself just for a moment. And this is what the definition of holiness is. What's the definition of holiness? Holiness is egolessness. As the Talmud says, what is the definition of a tzaddik, a true tzaddik? There are only 1 or 2 in every generation, a genuine tzaddik. A tzaddik, the Talmud says, the Jerusalem Talmud, is someone who has no yetzer hara. The libi cholol bekirbi. My yetzer hara is empty. I don't have it. Could you imagine a person, a human being, flesh and blood, has no lusts, no cravings, money, power, fame? How is it possible? The answer is because there's no I to lust. There's no I to crave. My whole being, my whole core, my whole essence is godliness, Hashem. If you realize and you experience how God creates the world each and every moment, so our very substance is nothing other than godliness. And that is why the only thing that inspires the tzaddik is to do godly activities, which we call mitzvahs. A mitzvah is divine. You study Torah, you're touching the divine. So although we could never be the tzaddik, we're not born that way, but we can aspire. We can get a glimpse. We can get a taste. When we daven, when we close our eyes and say Shema, Hashem Echad, why do we have to close our eyes? To know that there's only one God, that's elementary. For that, you have to close your eyes and concentrate twice a day. Ultimately, Hashem Echad means there's only one reality, there's only one truth, Hashem. There is no ego, there is no I, all there is Hashem. For that, you have to close your eyes. You have to focus. On Shabbat, on a holiday, on a Yom Tov, we get a taste, a glimpse. And once a person tastes, experiences once in your life to go beyond yourself, to go beyond your ego, there's no going back. The first generation of Chassidim, they were not born Chassidim. The Alter Rebbe himself didn't even know that his parents were Chassidim. They discovered it on their own. These were the leading giants, the scholars and mystical scholars of Eastern Europe. And they became Chassidim because it opened up a whole new world for them. They removed the blinders, and suddenly you see a new world. A world of Yiddishkeit which is suffused with joy and passion. A world in which you can love your fellow Yid, which you can care about your fellow Yid. And you can inspire your fellow Jew because your Yiddishkeit is warm, enthusiasm is contagious. So this is the gift in Tanya. Anyone here who's going to start their journey in studying Tanya, you're in for a treat of a lifetime. I got to warn you, it's very addictive. And there's no cure for this addiction. There's no mitzvah anonymous. One mitzvah leads to another mitzvah. And this is the ultimate preparation, fulfillment of the dream. The Baal Shem Tov had a dream, the famous letter. We have the writing of the Baal Shem Tov, Rosh Hashanah, 1747. He had a dream. He encountered Mashiach, and he asked him, Emosai ka'asi mar, when are you coming? 1700 years then, 1700 years in Golus. And Mashiach responded. He said one thing. It all depends on one thing. L'chsheyafutzu, ma'inasecha chutza. When your wellsprings will spread throughout the world. Maimonides characterizes the age of Mashiach as the information age. And the ultimate information, the information of Hashem, the knowledge of Hashem. He says the main occupation of the world, Jew as well as non-Jew, 7 billion people, will be the knowledge of Hashem. So this is how we are able to fulfill the dream of Mashiach, of the Baal Shem Tov, the vision of the Alter Rebbe who sacrificed his life to communicate and spread the knowledge of Hashem, that it should reach each and every Jew, and then will merit to continue this beautiful Farbrengen on the Upper East Side of Yerushalayim with the coming of Mashiach now. Good Yom Tov.